Hi folks, welcome back. Stephen here, Zanshin-Blades. Now you may remember part one where we took apart, or were about to take apart the handle that I was doing for a dojo friend of mine. And this is it. Bit different, huh? So in the video that you'll be seeing next, this is pretty much just taking the handle apart and just a running commentary on thoughts and chatting away about what we find as we're going. I know for some of you it's probably a bit of a boring process, the initial wrapping and just looking at someone unwrap Ido. But there's a lot of content and narrative as I'm doing this, so it's just skip forward to the part you're interested in if it gets a bit boring. But look, I'm telling you now, I'm not in it for the views, I'm in it for the content. So if you find it interesting, stick around, watch it all. There's just some different things that I've discovered along the way. Now this one had a split in it, as you saw in last episode, and I've taken it as far as I've taken the Samagawa strips off, 2 strips on one side there, and I find that's a bit of a thing that happens with some of the forges, especially out of China. So that is what it looks like now. That's the old wrap, and as you can see, that's not much chop at all. It's got bits of paint, bits of glue, all that type of thing. So that's had its day. But on the other side of that, what you can do is actually use this to just straighten it out, so you can get a rough measurement of how much wrap you need for the next job. I've already had a look at the diameter compared to the new stuff, and it's pretty much on point with what we're after in the way of dimension, so that shouldn't be a problem. So as far as that stuff, it's done. It's had its day. Then this is where the handle is now. The crack is substantial. As I said, it goes from there right down to about where my finger is. Now I've spoken to the gentleman, and I'll cover this in the upcoming vid. And what we're going to do is, now this handle will probably not be reused. I will make him another one. And when I do that, I will probably put time lapse or something in it just to do it a bit quicker, and so you guys don't get bored and things like that. But that's probably for another episode, or just another post or something like that, because I want to take my time with that one. If this is going to be the main one he's using, I may even have to get another handle that's just a bit better wood, and I'll take my time and really do a good job for him. But as for a backup handle and to get him on his feet, he said it's okay to use this one for the continuation of the video, if that's what I'm doing, just to give a good example of what's going on and how to go about rewrapping and resurfacing the handle. So I'm okay with that. This will then become his backup to be used whenever he wishes, and that's purely because of that little bit of damage we've got going on right there. And I don't know whether that's been previously had a look at to repair or not. But as you can see, that's running pretty much to there. So that's a good... That's about a good 8 centimetres. So I have to set a ruler there. An 8 centimetre crack running up and down. And I went through on the previous video as to what my best guess is as to why that happens, because this is an Iaito. It's not used for targeting. So yeah, just that, if you want to go back and have a look at that, if you haven't seen episode 1, there's just a few ramblings there about why the handle might be cracking the way it is. Another thing to look at when you're getting handles, and look, if you're buying them online, you haven't got much choice as to what you get, but the grain of the handle itself can play a major role. So you can see there, it's got a bit of a knot that they've surfaced and just used in the handle, and I hope you can see it there. You can see the grain of the wood, and that can put stresses through the handle that are not good. It'll just put the forces through the wood in a very different way. So in an ideal world, you would want a handle that has a very straight grain to it and a nice finish. Any knots will cause a wavering in the grain of the wood, and not so much there, but up from that knot you would start to get stress points, and knots dry out. You see, go outside, have a look at an old tree, and you'll see there's cracks and different things happening where the knot is. And I don't know if you can see that there, but there's that little bit of separation happening, and that's purely in the grain of the wood and around that knot. Knots usually have a lot more resin in them, So they take that little bit longer to dry out, and it's obviously a much denser part of the wood. So with that, you'll think the handle is dry, but over time it will develop these little cracks in the handle itself. So, you know, if you're ever making one from scratch, and I've made one from scratch, getting the wood is the hardest part. Here in Australia, we don't have the best wood for this type of stuff. It has to be, you know, exotic, they call it, or imported sort of stuff. There are supplies of it here, but using like oak or pine especially, it's too soft, it's too resinous. Rosewood is okay, it's a finer sort of grain, but again, that's prone to splintering and that type of thing. So there we have it, guys. I will leave the rest to the following vid. I did find the name out of that blank I had, so watch that for that. But as you can see, it's not a clean process. That is all the tape and different stuff that was on it. I'm going to continue to clean this up further, and so the next time we come back, that should be looking a little better. And then we've just got to try and, you know, color match that, or it might be just wash it so it is a lighter red. But this is where you get to play, but just don't forget where everything goes. This is why we take documents and measurements and all that type of thing, take photos. So thanks, guys, hope you're enjoying it. Let me know, because I'm having a ball. All right, so see you very shortly. G'day, good people, and welcome back. This is episode 2 of Tsukamaki. And if you didn't see that last episode, I'll just give you a brief run through as to what happened. This is the handle I'm currently working on. I'm going to take you guys through the whole process of rewrapping this one. But those of you that watched would have seen that we uncovered a little bit of a problem up here at the top end. There was a bit of a split in the handle, and I was just leaving that until I had a chance to talk to the fellow who owned this. And he said, look, just unwrap it and just make a call. If you think the handle is beyond repair, then, you know, we'll replace the full thing. Excuse me. And in that case, it would probably be something like this. This is just one I have spare. If I had a bit more time, I'd probably buy something a little different. But I've found that this one will actually fit quite well. Pretty much the same size, about a centimetre or so shorter, but that I've showed him this and he's not really concerned, because, you know, it's a matter of availability and time. So he's satisfied with that. If we have to use that, and obviously this is the fake ray skin I was sort of talking about the other day, I'll take that off and we'll put some little panels in there of real Samigawa and dress the handle a bit more before we action that and put that on the blade. But he also said, for the sake of the video, if you want to push on and rewrap this one, then that's fine as well. And I don't consider it a waste of time. Maybe that'll be a spare one that helps him out if the other one gives way. And for the sake of continuation, it'll be good for you guys to see just the breakdown and how we repair it, and, you know, how well it comes back together, even despite that split in the handle. But let's get into it. Oh, before we do, I said I'd source what this name is. This is actually part of my Tsukamaki stand. So you'll see there, that's just a blank. Now that's 1060 steel, and that is called a sashigane. And I'll put a picture up of where you can get that. I sourced this one from eBay at Swordmaster, and last I looked, and I only looked last night, he had some available. So if you wish that is a powder coated 1060 steel blank, and it's called a sashigane. And you've probably seen them with the handle makers slipping the handle on and off that. I've set it up on a little rotating device there at the end of the stand, and they're really, really handy. I think they are just over $50 Australian, and this one is 50 centimeters, so half a meter. So all you do there, obviously you're making sure that lines up, and you just slip that on. When I get into the handle wrapping part, I will probably put a bit of Ito or a bit of leather or something in there just to bind that a bit more, and that also protects the mouth of the Tsuba there as we're working on it. So let's push ahead. Having had that feedback, he's happy enough for us to try and recondition this one. And if that crack is too substantial, then we'll just move on to the other one. What I suggested I might do is actually put some epoxy, like Gorilla glue in there, which is very, very strong. There is an expanding form that you can place in there which fills up the cracks, but when you do that, you've got to rebind the handle, otherwise it'll just expand the handle out. So just bear that in mind if you're using any sort of epoxies or expanding glues. Make sure the handle is bound overnight until that glue sets. Otherwise you'll get this warping of the handle. Just push the handle out, push the crack out and change the dimensions. So as you can imagine, that's no good. So let's get to it. So the point of no return, as I like to say. So we're starting here at the end knot, and obviously this all fits into the Nagasa, the tang of the katana. I was calling it all sorts of weird stuff the other day, so I apologize to that. And we're going to start right here at the end and just flex this Edo off. There's one bit. So another thing also to keep in mind, the wrap that you're using, make sure it's compatible. Make sure that it is the right diameter. And I've already checked this, but turn that around. It's exactly the same diameter. So by the time, and as I was talking about yesterday, by the time we stretch and keep that tension on the cord, you'll see that's exactly the same diameter that we're working with is what we're taking off. So no problems there. And you can see the difference between the new and the old. Definitely well used, this one, and used well. So that's just a note on the wrap. I'll sit that there, get that out of the way, and let's continue on. So, and I might just put this bit on fast forward or 2 times speed, just to sort of speed it up a bit, so you're just not looking at someone unwrapping a handle. So that's that and that, and you can see how that plays with the Kashira. So you put that through there, then and then your end knot, they just tuck under there. When this sort of happens, it's, you're sort of in a corner here because there's not much of this left. It should be cut to length. So even if this does come loose, trying to tighten it back up and get all this back into the proper knot style is quite hard. So once it gets to this stage, it's sort of like, well, we're going to have to rewrap the handle, because you usually just don't have enough of this on the end to only do this bit if it comes loose. So let's push on. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pace so you guys get a look and my fat fingers aren't in the road. So we just pull that out. And we're being gentle, we're not forcing this stuff. You can break the Kashira just through there. It's very easy, and that is a very common problem. And if you are binding the wrong way initially, if there's too much tug in there, if you've got to force this Ito through into the knot, that is where you can sort of break those little openings there. And then, of course, that has to be replaced because that's not going to sit properly on the handle. So we'll just bring that around and just ply this one out. And if you don't have any extra cord, any sayo or wrap, whatever you like to call it, I'm pretty loose on the terms sometimes, guys, and I'm sorry if that confuses you, but hopefully you'll get the gist of what I mean. In the moment, sometimes I just forget the proper names and I'll revert back to the common terms. So for the purists out there, I humbly apologise. Right, almost there. So we are just getting that out there. And ta-da, you're free! Free! So again, we've taken all the pictures, written stuff down, taken measurements, so we know how this goes back together. And we see there, that's the Kashira. Is it the right way? No, that way. And in pretty good nick. Yeah, there's no cracks. That all looks to be pretty good. Awesome. One less thing to worry about. Right, and I don't know whether I'll just take this off. What is that? The Bane. It's epoxy. It's old glue. And those of you that saw the my shorts vid, you would have seen a big lump of this on this Sea King katana I had from Harmbond Forge. Seems to be a pretty popular thing to do just to try and secure it on, but yeah, over time, glue diminishes, it breaks down and loses its sticky, so to speak, and that's what you're left with. So we'll just, you know, at the end of it, we'll just peel all this off. We're going to get all that nice and clean so we can start afresh, start anew. This is actually, I found out as well when I talked to him, this is actually a blade. It's a 1060 steel Iaito from Wicked Blades. And I think he's had it for many, many years. But this is the origin of this handle and the blade that has been used. Just so you know, as a point of reference, I think they're still around actually, so if you want to go have a look at them, they've got heaps of stuff from last I remember. It's been a while since I looked on their website. Right. And we just keep working that wrap until it allows us to get a bite into where we need. There we go. And bear in mind, these guys, they're all production made, pretty quick, on the go. They have specialists to make certain parts of it, obviously. But they're done at a quick pace and they're not made to be worked on or come apart. So the point of no return, ta-da! Once you get to this stage, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that you're going to be working and rewrapping the handle. So let's get into that and I'll just show you how that is unfolding. Now, when you're rewrapping, it's also very good to remember that these things alternate. You'll see where there's one that's sort of going this way, so that's the top, and it's wrapping over that way, and then it reverses and goes that way. So there, 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 there. And that should be nice and even and alternating all the way down. And that's just not for presentation, because when this does come undone, that sort of stops the Ito coming, just unraveling flat out. Where if that was not alternated, it'd certainly unravel a bit quicker there. So previous attempt to try and fix this has been made, and you'll see that there's a there's a bit of sticky stuff there. So, you know, reusing your wrap material, your Seigo is out of the question most times. You can see there it's picking up bits of the red paint. Same thing happened on my Sea King katana. It was just all covered in blue. So I had to go about getting new cord and rewrapping accordingly. Right, let's speed this up. There's one of the Manuki there. So that is a flower design Manuki. Hope you can see there. Very pretty. So that one goes there. And again, this is where taking pictures, documenting what you're doing comes in handy, because you end up knowing exactly where everything come from. I'll just slide this back a bit, guys. There we go. So we'll keep going here. Oh, lordy. Right. So I might actually get rid of that now. It's just getting in the way. And that's just a brace. I use that more so when I'm wrapping the handle. It just helps, you know, keeping pressure on the handle is usually as I wrap, you pull down to tighten, and then as it gets tightened, we slip a clip on, if I can do that. and then that should stay secure. Turn over, and then you're working from that side. So that's, you know, obviously we'll get to that, but we'll take that out and off we go. So again, the other Minuki's coming out there. And there's no holes there. Sometimes there's a little hole or recess there to secure those, but as you can see, they're very flat on the other side. So there's nothing securing them, but again, if your wrap is tight enough, then you know that should be fine. And there we go, free, naked, almost. So the handy part about this is if you're not sure on the length of the Seigo that they've used, you can, to the best of your ability, just sort of straighten that out a bit and get a rough measurement of how much of this you're going to need for this particular handle. Interesting enough, the Seigo on the Saya that we use is more or less the same size, or length I should say, as the handle wrap. And I think that sort of points into how they used to use it. If the wrap was coming undone, they had Seigo on the scabbard or the Saya to replace it with if they were out and about and they couldn't get to somewhere to repair it. So yeah, very interesting little fact there that both those lengths are pretty much the same when it comes to wrapping the handle and the Seigo on the Saya. So that is done. Yeah, we won't be reusing that stuff, but it served its purpose. You can see it's all got quite a bit of grit and dirt and paint on it. But these are the consumables when we're coming to working with katana or yaito or any blade. They're made to do the job and then to be replaced. So let's just take that Kashira out, so Fuchi, Kashira, Minuki, all there. And let's have a look at the elephant in the room. And again, oh, look at that. I'm glad to see I'm not the only one. Now, I found this with most basic Chinese forged swords. And look, they're picking up, they're doing good, the quality and whatnot is improving, but there's certain things they do that I think are just like, oh, come on, really? And this is one of them. Both the panels on my other Harmbond forged one, and I'm not ripping on Harmbond, they put out good products, but and bear in mind, the sword I got was like, to my door, 170 Australian dollars, so it wasn't a high-end sword. So, and I suspect that this is probably, you know, very similar price range at the time. But the Samigawa, they use two different panels there. So that's a separate panel altogether. The grain is similar. There's not much difference in those nodes compared to those ones. But yeah, different strip. Annoys me no end. This one seems to be, that's all one panel in there. And I do the same. There's this double-sided tape. It's very thin, transparent tape that you can place on the top and bottom of the handle there. You can see where the tape has been moved across with the grip that's happening on the katana there. You can see that would have been one of those points where you're gripping and moving, and you can see there the tape has actually started to roll over. But bear in mind, this old handle. Right, so that's what we could originally see. Hope you can see that little crack there. And I was like, ooh, oh dear, that looks substantial. And as we open it up and have a look, there's a crack that goes about there. So I probably wouldn't reuse this handle. Yeah, it looks like it might have even, looks like there's a little glue or something in there. So I don't know whether that's just a bit of dirt that's come out through there, or whether that's a previous attempt to repair. But yeah, that is what we're working with. So I may redo this for the sake of just, you know, getting it on the table and showing you guys how to go through the process. I will probably put a little bit of, I'll strip this all back and clean it right up so that we know what we're working with. As you can see there, it's coming off anyway. So what we might do there, while you're here, put that on. And we're just exercising a little bit of care. We don't want to bust the ray skin. And ooh, that's pretty stuck there. And what I'm also being careful is that I'm not ripping up any of the Suba. So we don't want to just rip onto that and find out that we've splintered or pulled out any of the handle. So this is why I'm sliding the tool under and just lifting as I go, and that will lessen all that. So there we go, that's one strip off. Pretty messy. So you can see there, if you just sort of stuck a bit of glue where it was coming off and thought, yep, good enough, that's on now. Yeah, glues will, they don't mix well. Old glue will just continue to lose its properties, and the new glue will be okay, but there's a mismatch there of materials. So I find it best just to strip it all off, give it a clean where it's a bit dirty as much as you can. Remember, you're working with secondhand stuff, old stuff, and if it's still working, if it's still going to go back on okay, then reuse it. You know, it's part of the charm, if you will, or the history or the provenance of the blade. So that's one side, and as you can see there, that's pretty good nick in there despite the crack. And yeah, I don't know why they do it, but everything gets a liberal paint job. When you ask for coloured Semigawa, you know, from some forges, some companies will just paint the whole handle, so they're not going to colour the Semigawa per se as an individual thing. They will pretty much looks like they just stand back and spray paint it basically. Okay, so that's that one. And this is on a little, good gosh. There we go. So again, taking your time. I'm trying to rush because I don't want to be boring. I want to have a bit of progression as I'm filming this, but at the same time, you've got to be very mindful of the materials you're working with. And once you get to know what it's like to work with them after a few times, you get to know how sort of hard you can work it, how much force you can put into getting this stuff apart, or indeed when to stop if you're going to break something. And accidents happen, guys. I've had plenty of moments, if you will. There you go, number 2. So not high quality. It's been used that much, it's almost flat, but there we go. And I don't know if you can see that, quite messy. So this is what I mean about keeping or color matching. So even with taking the Ito off, taking the wrap off, you can see there's bits of paint that have lifted, the dirt there that's accumulated through use. So you go from that redness to all this splotchy sort of paint job. So if I was to wash that up, there would still be tints of red in it. It'd still have that red hue, but the problem you have now is, how do you get rid of that stuff? You know, how do you match that up? You can see where the triangles were, and it's right on the line of where they're wrapped. So you know, it's not a straightforward process. You have to have a think about what is going to be under the handle once you're finished. So I might just give that a really good scrub up and just see if we can get like a light red patina through that Samigawa, and that will lessen those highlights and hopefully make it look a bit more blended, if you will. If not, then we'll get into the Samigawa strips that I showed you yesterday, and we'll put some new stuff on there. And if that is the case, if he does want new Samigawa, then all this red has to come off. So that's a matter of just sanding and working with the handle. And look, I do that anyway because all this stuff here on the edges, look at that, has to be gotten off. And it's interesting when you start doing this, what you find. It's good if you can get an old handle, if you're rewrapping handle, and just have a look at the Hishigami, how it was made, you know, what they've done in certain areas. It all adds to the knowledge base and experience you get from doing this stuff. Everyone has depending on the craftsman, they all have you know, slightly different ways of doing stuff. Japan, it's an art form. And you'll find that, you know, some of the makers will guard their methods quite jealously, and rightly so. It's probably what puts them apart from the rest. So, but as you can see, that's like I don't know if that's actually tape or if it's like a light rice paper. I think it's light rice paper by the look of it. So there we go. So yeah, we'll just continue on with all that, cleaning it up, getting it all ready, getting these gluey bits off in the end. Bloody criminal, I tell you. Whew, that's on there, and that's why it's so hard to get off. And you've got to be very mindful. You don't want to break off these end bits here, because obviously that is supplying a beautiful little fit for the Kshira when that goes on. But you can see we'll just reshape that. We'll just get a nice little defined line in there with the wood files, and get that. And when I take this off, that will probably want to sit a little bit further into the handle, only a little bit, probably come to sort of want to go down to about there sort of thing, but that's okay. What that will enable us to do is just reprofile where that little recess is, and that in itself will help that sit a lot better. And you can see there's hardly a recess, hardly a lip for that to go onto. And this is where you get the mismatch of the transitions happening. So if you can just make a nice little lip in there, then when you're doing the wrap, that should match over that lip quite nicely, and you know, your transitions will be spot on. So that is that for the breakdown for the moment, guys. Obviously there's a lot of prep and sanding to do, and I'm just going to have a closer look there at that one and see how much of a bloody problem that's going to be. So, you know, like I said, if it was a handle that was getting used heavily, especially if it was a handle that was used for target practice, then that it would be gone. You wouldn't use that at all. But for the sake of rewrapping and for him to have a spare, I think it's more sentimental than anything. But like I said, he loves that shape, that little contour that's happening in the handle there at the top. And it's just one of those things, once you get used to a nice handle, it's a good thing, and it's hard to let go of. No pun intended. So, all right. So there we go with that one. So I will go clean this up, and I will come back to you guys, and we'll progress further. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned, and next one coming up shortly.